from Anita Mendiratta, who's a consultant on travel, tourism and aviation. She's in London and joins me live on the line. Welcome to you.
Thank you so much.
I mean, there's a lot of people will have incurred financial losses in this, but the first thing I always think about is the most vulnerable. So I'm talking about the people who will be impacted directly. And excuse me, it makes me think of, for example, families who might be going on holiday. They might have paid up front for all of their travel and accommodation, and they might just not have the funds to pay for some emergency hotel accommodation. They might not be able to afford to get back home. People might be stuck in transit. When people are literally stranded in circumstances like that, is there help for them?
It's an important point you mentioned, because ultimately this isn't about 200,000 people that are stuck. It's one person 200,000 times. And each of those has their own story, they have their own reason for travel. And as you say, many have their own vulnerabilities, and the ability to not only find the ability to continue on home, but to absorb the cost of time and money in being able to fill up the time in between. I think what's also important to mention as well, there are effectively three bands to this. There are the passengers, absolutely right. There's cargo, because 95% of the aircraft that are coming into Heathrow have cargo in the belly of their aircraft. And they're the people living around Heathrow who depended on that same energy network. And I think we're looking at about 16,000 homes. So there's a huge amount of impact that's coming through. But to your question about those that are vulnerable, this is where duty of care kicks in. And this is where airlines in the airport, through their emergency operations centers, have the ability to support travelers, and especially those that are identified, young, for instance, passengers that are going unaccompanied, being able to make sure that they are prioritized to be taken care of. That is the responsibility of the airline, and that's just where humanity of travel kicks in.
I mean, it's horrible if you're in your own country, if you're, say, British and you're travelling out and you get stranded, yes, but at least you're familiar with the surroundings. What about those people who are abroad? And some people will do this, right or wrong. They'll spend everything they've got when they're on holiday, they're waiting to fly back, and then they find themselves stuck in a foreign country. Is there help internationally there, either from their own government or from overseas governments?
And this is where, again, ultimately the airlines are the front line in terms of support. And then you have naturally the passenger, ultimately the rights of the passengers themselves. It's very important that ultimately we look back at when we book our travel, what are the conditions under which we can be supported if we do get into trouble? And ultimately it's not, whether it's you or whether it's me, we might have our professional roles, but when we're traveling and things go wrong, we feel incredibly vulnerable. Who do we reach out for help? So they are very much the system within the travel and tourism system that recognizes that all things don't go smoothly. You can have severe weather incidents. Almost a year ago, we were talking about the CrowdStrike glitch that caused impact around the Microsoft systems that had huge impact on airlines and airports around the world, as well as financial services and other businesses. So all of these things draw in the fact that as much as we need travel and tourism, and it's an expectation of our lives, we need to be increasingly ready for when things go wrong. How do we manage that? And that's where travel insurance becomes very important, and an understanding when we book our travel, what is the plan B should plan A fail?
And as I said, Anita, there's going to be huge financial losses incurred all round here. I mean, the airport are going to take some hits, the airlines will take hits. When something like this happens, could it have an impact long term? Could we see job losses? I mean, how hard is it going to hit the airlines, for example?
I think one of the most important things that's going to happen is when we look at Heathrow as an airport, the reputational damage. As we've heard very clearly from Willie Walsh in your opening segment, just how cross he is as someone who Heathrow was his home base. He now is the Director General of IATA, the International Air Transport Association, understands that when you have that dependency on a single or a double power source, there's going to be exponential risk attached. So there's the airport impact, which naturally will have impact in terms of people who want to travel through the airport, the airlines, which are charged landing fees and operational fees, and then the airlines. The airlines could do nothing about this aside from protect their passengers, and they're doing everything they can, whether it's diverting them or even canceling flights before they were taking off. So in the 24 hours that we have, and thankfully Heathrow was able to say up until approximately midnight, everything is shut down. we can start arranging plans for relocation of passengers, crew, and aircraft that are stranded, accelerating again the momentum of travel that needs to take place to get those that didn't take off back in the air, and resuming ultimately the schedules that are due to go on from early morning tomorrow. So there are many people within this ecosystem, many stakeholders, many leaders having very close conversations right now, but ultimately duty of care and respect for passengers needs to be absolutely a priority, because as you said from the beginning, there's vulnerability of travelers, whether it's age, physical ability to absorb long travel, or financial costs that ultimately needs to be incurred in the immediacy of finding somewhere to stay, somewhere to eat, and some way to keep moving.
Anita, some great insights, much appreciated them. Anita Mendiratta, consultant on travel, tourism, aviation, my guest.